Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second episodes of the Cheeseheads podcast. I am Mason Thompson, joined with MJ Hurley and Christopher Gallagher. Today, we will be talking about what happens if the Packers restructure Aaron Rodgers and if we actually should. We will go into some free agents that we all have listed as our potential hits for the Packers this offseason. But first, we have a bit of some news today. So for information, today is March 1st. We are recording this at about 3:30 Central Time. And about 3 hours ago, J.J. Watt decided to sign instead of the Green Bay Packers, Cleveland Browns, Buffalo Bills, Tennessee Titans. He went to the Arizona Cardinals. The contract he signed is a 2-year contract worth $31 million with $23 million guaranteed. And I'll be the first to say this. There was in no way, shape, or form that the Packers were giving him that contract with our current salary cap situation. Do you guys have any input on the contract details as a whole?
I mean, the guy went out there and got his bag. I mean, I don't blame him. It's not a bad decision for J.J. Watt. I mean, in a vacuum, is he maybe more likely to contend with the other options that you just listed, Mason? Yes, but it's not like the Cardinals are a bad team. It's not like he went out. It's not like he went out there to the Jaguars, although I think they could make some noise this year too, but that's a different story. I mean, just generally, like, they were a winning team last year. They have a very good quarterback. He's going to be opposite a very good pass rusher in Chandler Jones. Obviously, that's a very well contested division. That's a very talented division. So it's going to be hard to come out of there. But I mean, I don't blame him. He got good money. And yeah, there was no way in this world Green Bay was going to pay that.
Yeah, with $23 million in guaranteed money, he priced himself out of what the Packers are willing to offer him. I think Gutekunst and company, no more than $10 million would be where they'd be willing to go with Watt. It was a weird signing for me because I thought it was going to come down to Green Bay or Buffalo were the two teams for me. But Arizona, like, no one really mentioned it. They were kind of just in the background a little bit. And then suddenly this news drops earlier on in the day, and he signed for a whopping $31 million, where Arizona, they're in a tough division, best division in football in that NFC West. And their defense isn't, I would say, ready to contend for a Super Bowl, even with the addition of Watt, right? There's still a few pieces away from being like a legit contender in the AFC, but obviously it was a great signing for them. And yeah.
For me, it's compared to the other teams like a Green Bay, which, again, there was no way in hell we signed him at that contract. I mean, that's $15-16 million a year. We're currently $9 million over the salary cap. But Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt, I know there's a lot of rumors about Russell Wilson getting traded, but with that news, how much does that hurt Wilson already? Because that's J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones, Nick Bosa, Aaron Donald in the same division now.
That was my initial reaction was, holy crap, Russell Wilson's life just got a lot worse. I mean, do I think that like directly influences him saying, I actually want to trade now? No. But it has to mess with him in the back of his head a little bit. Like, okay, now on every team I face, there's at least one, if not two, guys who are going to be bearing down on me. And, you know, his life is not going to be very fun in 6 out of the 16 games of the year, unless that O-line gets a lot better a lot quicker.
And they don't have a first-round pick to do that either.
Yikes.
One thing I want to say about the Cardinals is they went 8-8 last year. They're not really, when you think of elite teams in the NFC, you don't really think of them first. They have 3 of their 5 offensive linemen are either free agents or you have Justin Pugh who retired. They have 2 of their 3 starting cornerbacks are free agents. So what does Watt see right there, though? That's my question. Is it just, did he chase the money or does he really see a contender there? That's just me, though.
I think part of it is money. It's a warm place in Arizona, which, you know, has to play some part in it. A lot of players like going to warm climates. Green Bay is not one of them. Buffalo is not one of them. Really, Cleveland and Tennessee kind of, but I mean, Arizona, it's a nice place to live. A lot of people go there to retire, stuff like that. And he gets to play with his old buddy, DeAndre Hopkins. I think those are the biggest impacts there. Obviously, you have Kyler Murray. If he takes a big step in the third year, I think he's already an elite quarterback. If he takes a big step, I think they could make some noise. But because Arizona is in that division, like Chris said, best division in football, it's going to make it really difficult. And it's anybody's guess how that division falls at this point. So honestly, I don't really know, but if they were the ones offering the most money and at the end of the day that was most important to him, then he made his decision. And I don't think it's up to us to figure out, or not, it's not up to us to like condemn him for taking money. You know, it's his life. He's put his mind, body, and soul on the line for football for the last 10 years. If he wants to go get $31 million, by all means, JJ, go get it.
I agree with that.
I think Arizona and Houston are scheduled to face off next year, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
That's going to add some fireworks with those two teams, Hopkins and Watt returning to
Houston's going to get smacked.
this offensive team.
Oh, yeah.
And quickly, I wonder about how much of the Vance Joseph connection had with the signing with his 2 or 3 years in Houston as their defensive backs coach. I think they had really good success under him, and I think those are a couple of Watt's best years. So how much of a factor did that play in him signing with the Cardinals would be my question too.
I mean, it's something that we'll get similar into later, but anytime you have a coach that used to coach you on your former team, there's a lot of players that go to that new team where they're coaching. You can see it in Buffalo today with Sean McDermott, how Josh Norman went there. I can't remember the defense tackle's name. It's not Keelan Short, but it's another one. There's a lot of players that went from Carolina to Buffalo. There's guys that went to Dallas with Mike McCarthy from Green Bay, like Clint Dix. There's so many times that'll happen. So it's not that uncommon, to me at least. I want to give one last note here. A buddy of mine that was the one that commented saying that he'd take my lunch money in the comments last week is a Cardinals fan. So shout out to you, Scott.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
My mother was not really happy about that one. She was going to go off, but waited until I got home to ask if I actually knew that guy.
It's okay. Chris and I will take your lunch money too.
I have enough of that anyways. So
there you go.
Are you guys ready to get into our main event here?
Let's do it.
So do we let Chris go first since he's in the minority here?
Yeah, that would probably be the main argument here. So the main argument here is if the Packers should restructure Aaron Rodgers' contract. The main reason for this was, well, we kind of wanted to see if Packers could get some free agents, most notably J.J. Watt. And, well, that's kind of out of the picture. But now the main focus here is Rodgers in our long-term plans, or is it time to turn the page and go to Jordan Love after this next year?
And Mason, do you have the number? Like, basically, how much money would restructuring right now save the Packers? And
I do not have the numbers, but I do have the picture from Ken Ingles that I sent you the other day.
Oh yeah, okay. We'll get to that in a little bit. We'll let Chris go first.
All right. So last week, me and these two knuckleheads got in an argument about the future of our soon-to-be Hall of Fame quarterback who's just coming off the best season of his 16-year NFL career at 37 years old. I believe this is a no-brainer. Rodgers, I think, is due a $14.7 million base salary in 2021, the $6.8 million roster bonus that comes into effect in March. And with the restructuring, I believe the Packers could get enough space under the salary cap where we could still sign enough free agents to keep enough of a talented roster around Rodgers where, boys, we've seen in the playoffs and throughout the regular season, the NFL is about what? Having a star quarterback, right? Obviously, everyone's hung up on this. You got to get a quarterback on a rookie deal and build around them. But your team only goes as far as your quarterback will take you. We saw it a few years ago with the Rams where they got all the way to the Super Bowl But what ultimately hindered them down the stretch? Jared Goff. And Goff's off that team now where I believe Rodgers should be in Green Bay for 2 to 3 more years. We keep our championship window open. We build the best team we can around him. I have trust in Gutekunst and company where I have faith in them to put enough pieces around him where we can be a contender in the NFC and ultimately get back to the Super Bowl.
Do you want to start first, or do you want me to start first with this argument?
Mason, you can go first. I'll clean it up at the end.
I just want to mainly do what he said first, not our full argument. The point you said was that the Rams made it to the Super Bowl and Goff was the one that costed them when the final score was 9-3, 12-3, something like that. Yeah, that Patriots defense was the best in the league by a mile. There's not much you can do with a defense like that against I guess you could say the rookie. Goff was sort of a rookie then. I think it was his third year that year, but that wasn't really on Goff. That was just against a 30-year veteran coach in Bill Belichick going against Sean McVay, who hadn't really seen a defense like that, and Goff hadn't either. There's not much you could have really done, and it was so close still that one play, one touchdown could have had the Rams be the Super Bowl champion instead of the Patriots.
So here's the thing. I want to take a look at. First, I want to say, if Aaron Rodgers wants to restructure his contract and he's going to play for the Green Bay Packers for the next, I will say, 3 years, 21, 22, 23. If he wants to play that and he's playing an MVP form for those 3 years, continuing what he's doing right now until the age of 40, we would be idiotic to say we don't want that man in the building.
Absolutely.
I think we can all agree on that. If we restructure his contract right now, we save $14 million. I think Mason said earlier we're about $9 million under the cap right now. Over the cap. I always say that. That would put us $5 million in the green, right? We still have to make some moves. Let's say we go out there, we cut Preston Smith with that post June 1st designation. That saves us $12 million. So now we've got $17 million to play with. We have some money to work with here, right? And I'm not opposed to that. But here's my issue. And here's what we were talking about the other day. The Packers have done a very good job in the last 25 or so years of not only working on the present, but also working on the future at the same time. The Packers drafted Rashawn Gary when they knew both of the Smith brothers were coming in. That's about to pay off because we're about to cut Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary is basically going to take a spot. And that move looks genius.
Yeah.
That we knew to draft even when we were bringing in 2 big name free agents. The reason we drafted Jordan Love is because last year, Aaron Rodgers did not look like himself 100%. He looked like the best football player. I mean, he put up historic numbers last year, things that only he has ever done. So the Packers were not expecting that 100%. But the Packers have said that they want to compete with Aaron Rodgers and start grooming Jordan Love. We have to prepare for the future as well as the present. And the issue is, with Aaron Rodgers getting paid as much money as he has, he's incredible. Don't get me wrong, but he has never on a big contract carried the Packers to even a Super Bowl appearance. And as much as I love him, and as much as I love to egg on Tom Brady lovers and stuff like that, doing the Brady Rodgers comparison, I've been doing that for weeks now. As much as I love to do that, Rodgers on his big contract has never carried the Packers to a championship. The model we've seen in the last couple of years, and this is what Chris mentioned, is we've seen teams with quarterbacks on rookie contracts. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback. Of course, he's going to carry the Chiefs to the Super Bowl, most likely whether or not he's on a rookie contract or not. But it's going to be a hell of a lot harder when he's not on his rookie contract when he starts getting paid. The Chiefs are going to have to work a lot harder to get to the Super Bowl than they did when he was on his rookie contract. So basically my point is, and then I'll let Mason talk, it's going to be significantly harder for the Packers to just naturally, with an incredible all-around team, make it to the Super Bowl. Obviously, when you have Aaron Rodgers on your team, you are a Super Bowl contender. I don't deny that. But my question is, what kind of future are we going to have if we have to do a Rams type move where we basically take a crap load of money, ship off Jared Goff, and then you're in a little bit of a tricky situation? I want to, if possible, succeed now and prepare ourselves for the future. And I think keeping Aaron Rodgers on the deal he has right now, if this year doesn't work, gives us an out. If they trust Jordan Love, I trust the Packers organization to make that decision. Obviously, we're three knuckleheads sitting here. We're not in an NFL front office, but I trust the Packers front office, and they drafted Jordan Love knowing that there's a possibility Rodgers might be gone this year.
Do you have anything you want to say to that, Chris, or do you want me to say what I had to say for a little bit?
I think the thing for me is we're putting a lot of stock in Jordan Love that we haven't seen take a single snap yet, right?
Oh, for sure.
Correct.
Whereas we know what we have with Rodgers. We're going to be a contender basically every year he's here. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Playoffs at least, yes.
Yes.
And I think as fans, we're so quick to move off these fans and lovers of these teams. We're so quick to move off these veteran quarterbacks, create this cap savings, and look towards the future where we have arguably the biggest meal ticket to getting towards another Super Bowl in the NFL, besides obviously Patrick Mahomes.
So what I was going to say is MJ brought up Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So all three of us were a part of Brady's another writer we work with. He primarily does draft content. We were all part of the offseason simulation, and Chris was actually the one who did the Chiefs. So, Chris, you remember the hard times that you had getting the Chiefs under the cap in that simulation?
I do.
Okay. So, I'm going to bring up – so what we're trying to say here is we're fine with Rodgers this year. We're worried about is we can get out of it next year, after this next year. Put in Jordan Love. I'm going to name off some free agents for 2022, but first I want to say this. So I sent this to MJ over the weekend. I didn't send it to Chris because we're on the same side and Chris isn't, but there was a tweet from the Packers main cap space guy. So it was the fact that the Packers have over $104 million of cap in 2022 to only 4 players. That is Aaron Rodgers, David
I saw that, yeah.
Zadarius Smith, and Kenny Clark. If right now Rodgers' cap number for 2022 is just under $40 million.
Before restructuring.
Yes. If the restructure does happen, that goes up to 47, 48, 49. You want to look at some teams like New Orleans and Pittsburgh, where they keep pushing the money just back. What is that going to do? And it's just going to create what is going to happen to the Saints this year, where they're going to have to mortgage off half their team. And what I want to say here is, if you look at our free agents the next 2 years, I'm going to run through 2022 first. Devontae Adams, we can save some money by extending him this year, but he's going to get top 1-2 wide receiver money because he is. Too.
Yeah.
We have Jair Alexander's 5th-year option. You're picking that up and you're signing him to a long-term cornerback 1 type of deal.
Extension, yep.
I mean, you could also talk about Lucas Patrick, Chris Barnes, who plays that one position, MVS and St. Brown for our 2022 free agents. You've got 2 big ones there. You've got some key role players and maybe a few starters. But what I want to look at most is 2023. You have Zadarius Smith, Adrian Amos, Billy Turner, both Darnell Savage and Rashawn Gary's 5th-year options, Elton Jenkins, Kingsley Keke, and Jay Sternberger, who play role options, but they could be bigger role key players this year. If you restructure Rodgers, how many of those players are we able to keep?
Not many.
So my question for you, Chris, is keeping Rodgers on this enormous deal. Like, would you rather keep Rodgers at that massive deal and lose an Adams or an Alexander or Sean Gary, any of those guys? Is that what you want to do?
My argument to that would be over the last 10 years and this run of sustained success in Green Bay for most of them, we've seen a lot of good players come and go out of the Packers organization, right? Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Packers have usually been pretty good at draft and developing for the most part. We usually hit on late round picks, usually in the first round, give or take a few. So it's on our front office at Gutekunst and Company to keep hitting on these draft picks if we're going to go down the route of keeping Rodgers in Green Bay on a restructured deal. And along with that, we're thinking, as a result of the pandemic right now, the salary cap's, $180 million minimum?
That is it. That's what it is for this year. It goes up slightly for 2022 and 2023.
With these massive TV deals coming in, right? Amazon's set to pay a lot of money for Thursday Night Football. Apparently the numbers are reportedly astronomical. That cap number is going to keep going up and up and up and up, right? And it just gives us more money and more space available to keep guys like Adam, Savage, Gary, players like that, where we could still, this is just my opinion, build a roster around Rodgers and compete for the Super Bowl.
So the issue I have with that is I have two issues. Number one, the issue with the cap is just going to go up argument is players are just going to get more money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's generally how it works. The contracts go up with the cap. So I understand that, and that's true. So that might help us a little bit, but, realistically, it's not going to help that much. Because if the cap goes up, Adams, Alexander, Jenkins are just going to want a couple more $1 million, and you're going to have to give it to them because those are the players you need to keep. My thing, and this is the last big thing I remember from our discussion a couple weeks ago, is my question to you, Chris. Let's say after next season, Packers go all in this offseason, do everything within their power to get Rodgers a Super Bowl. It just doesn't pan out. Are you willing to absolutely suck for a year, go through hell, and go 4-12, 5-11 with our first year of Jordan Love? He doesn't know what he's doing. Everybody wants Matt LaFleur out of there. Packers Twitter goes off for a full 16 games. But then the next season, we go 9-7, make the playoffs. And the next season, we compete for a Super Bowl. And then we're Super Bowl contenders for the next 10 years. Are you willing to suffer through one season of absolute hell to make it to that pattern again? Because we've done it twice now.
Yeah.
Are you willing to, would you rather go too far and go more than all in with Rodgers, or would you rather try to strike gold for a third time and trust the Packers front office? I think we all trust the Packers front office to develop an offense.
We do.
So why not trust them on Jordan Love?
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here, where I have a lot of faith in Gutekunst and Company that Jordan Love's going to be our guy, and we're going to have 10 more years of being the Green Bay Packers, right? But we've had this long run of Favre to Rodgers to 20 years of being so close, 20 plus years, and we only have 2 Super Bowls to show for it. And as a fan of this team, this is more of my fan hat on right now, I want to get loaded up and prepare for one more run would be my end goal, right?
So I mean, they were in the NFC Championship game, and they were, I mean, by all statistics, they were the better team in that game. I mean, they just didn't capitalize on some turnovers. If they score one touchdown on one of those turnovers, they win.
That's the game.
Right. They win the game. So, I mean, Mike, I guess it sounds like you think this team is a lot further off. I don't think they need that much money to play with.
No.
To go win a Super Bowl.
No.
So why do we need to restructure Rodgers, mortgage our future for 1 year when we've been in the NFC Championship game 2 years in a row?
I think realistically, we have, what do you guys think, 2 or 3 shots left at this?
Are you talking about with Rodgers?
With Rodgers.
2.
2?
2 if we don't restructure him, and then we ship him. Well, if we do restructure him and not ship him off somewhere else next year after the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, either way, I think 2 years.
Yeah.
So I would say, I think they've already made it clear, right, that it's realistically going to happen where they're going to restructure him. The players already said Rodgers is our guy. Murphy and company have already said we're going to restructure him. It's going to happen where I think for these next 2 years, they do all in their power to get back to another Super Bowl. I don't know what you guys think there, but
I have not seen anything or heard anything that makes it sound absolute. I think their commitment in their postseason press conference, their commitment from everybody I've talked to is more this year. Like they wanted to get rid of the rumors that Rodgers was going to get dealt or something like that, or that he was even on the table. I don't think that was he is our quarterback as long as he wants to be here type conversation. Yeah. Because that's not the Packers' MO. They dealt, I mean, granted, the Brett Favre situation was different because he freaking retired. But still, if he really was their guy, 100%, the second he said he wanted to come back like he did the other times, because remember this happened multiple times that Brett Favre was like, I'm going to retire, JK, LOL, I'm coming back. If he really was their guy at that point, they would have taken him back open arms and sent Rodgers back to the bench. But they decided he was no longer their guy. So I think, yes, for this season, 100% Rodgers is their guy. No doubt about it. But I don't believe that they're not willing to move on after next season until I hear it from Goody and LaFleur's mouths themselves, until I actually see Rodgers in training camp of 2022 in that red jersey. I don't believe it.
So I want to go back to a few points that Chris made. You talked about how the cap space is going to keep climbing and climbing and climbing. And while that is true, you still have guys like, if we do keep Rodgers, if we do restructure him, you'll have him at over $40 million in 2022, 2023, 2024. You'll still have guys like Bakhtiari, Zadarius Smith's going to want another contract, Kenny Clark. You're going to get Devontae Adams, Jair Alexander, say Rashawn Gary, Jenkins, Savage. All those guys are going to be over $10, $12 million per year. So even if the cap keeps climbing and climbing, our cap space is going to keep climbing and climbing with it to be closer to the cap number. And another thing with that, with what you said, is we can draft and develop, but with being so close and so tight to the cap space, like the even level, be it just a bit under or over, first round draft picks are worth a lot of money too. You've seen it with the Rams the last few years. They keep trading out of the first round.
That's true.
As a result of them not having cap space. So do you really want to see us do that? That's my big thing. Is another thing with the Rodgers deal is if we do trade him, how many first round picks are we getting back?
A lot.
Yeah.
If you trade him,
all for him.
If we trade him after next year,
like
4 or 5 first
for me is the baseline. 2 first round picks. You can get more than that for Rodgers. And we still have a stacked roster right now, in my opinion. You have a few holes, but if you throw in Jordan Love, you can build up just like that. What you guys said is we're not going 4-12 that first year. If you look at the roster, we're more than ready for more than 4-12. And if you look at the other teams in the division right now, we're here, they're all down here.
That's true.
So they're all in opposite directions than us. We are set for the present and the future. We aren't going 4-12 that first year with Jordan Love. Like, for me, all 3 teams are in limbo with their quarterback position. So are you really going to be that bad, or are you still going to make the playoffs in the first year?
I mean, freaking not to dock the guy, but the Bears just made the playoffs with Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky. If you're telling me that Jordan Love is going to come in and somehow be worse than that with a Packers team that, like Mason said, will still be stacked. Again, assuming this would be he starts playing in 2022. He can't be worse. He's playing 3 bad teams 6 times out of 16. And then you got Russell Wilson playing in the NFC West, playing really good teams 6 out of 16. Like, he's going to have a very good offense around him. The offense Matt LaFleur has is built for, I mean, it's the same McVay offense that freaking took Jared Goff to the Super Bowl. Jordan Love would be just fine.
And
like, he just has to be average. Give me 15th quarterback in the NFL, and Jordan Love will at least take us to the playoffs.
And that's in the first year. And if you trade Rodgers after next year, in that first year, you're going to have another extra first-round pick. So
you have 2 first-round picks coming in to help Jordan Love.
And depending on what the team is, too. So if you send him to, say, San Francisco, who may need a quarterback soon, I have one of my best friend's girlfriends actually wants him to go to San Francisco after the NFC Championship game. Her and I had a whole entire talk about that, and she's set on him going to 49ers now after next year. But
born and raised in Chico.
Exactly.
There it is.
But my big thing is you can trade Rodgers, you can get so much draft capital back, and you can be right where we are now, just in so little time. So that's my big thing is you can build up the roster around him with the increasing cap space. You can get more draft picks. That's, as a team builder and as like a draft guy, that's kind of where I sit with it. I understand where Chris is coming from because we thought the same thing with like Jordy Nelson, I know it's at a lesser extent, but John Kuhn too.
Yep.
So,
well, here's the thing. I think, and I'm usually like the middle guy, whatever show I'm on or podcast or anything. I'm not like too wild. I think both Chris and Mason could be happy in a Jordan Love world. Let's say we trade Rodgers after this season in the offseason sometime. 2022. Picture this. We've got Jordan Love. We've got 2 first-round draft picks in that season. And because we just shipped off $40 million, and whoever's going to take Rodgers probably will take all the money because they want Aaron Rodgers. We ship off $40 million. You realize how much cap space we have? Not just to re-sign our guys, but to bring more in. Jordan Love is going to be around the most stacked roster in the NFL at that point, probably. He's going to have an incredible defense. Devontae Adams, probably still A.J. Dillon at that point, who will be a freaking tank by then, if he's not already. That is going to be an incredibly talented roster. And again, all I need from Jordan Love in his first year is like 15th ranked quarterback in the NFL. And he will get better from there. Because remember, this offense is built to sustain quarterbacks. I think it would make both of you happy. Just think about that.
I see both sides to this argument. And well, I think it's likely that you guys are probably right. Rodgers does have 1 year left in Green Bay, and then they'll realistically ship him out and move on to Jordan Love. It's hard for me as a fan to move on from Aaron Rodgers, who's been perennial MVP candidate every year, led us to multiple runs in the Super Bowl, and say, like, that's it, you know?
I mean, to a lesser extent, it's kind of similar to what the Chargers had to do with Rivers. But other than the fact that the Chargers didn't have their guy right then in the back seat, they took Herbert right after Rivers was gone. I mean, that's like to a lesser extent anyways, but you could also say, I mean, kind of like New England, I guess, with Brady to Stidham / Cam Newton, which look at the situation they're in now. They didn't already have that guy ready.
They didn't prepare for it.
They didn't prepare for it, and now look where they're at. They're either with Cam Newton, who didn't do good this year, you can throw a Jarrett Stidham in, you can trade for someone, and like New England, like Chicago, they aren't in a good draft spot to draft one of the top quarterbacks. So
I just don't want to be in football purgatory.
Yeah.
I don't want to land there. And that is my biggest concern if we restructure Rodgers.
Yes.
Because if we restructure him, you kind of have to keep him the whole time. And by then you will have never seen Jordan Love. You probably don't pick up that option. And he's most likely gone. And then you have to start all over. That is my
We're stuck with nothing, right?
I kind of want to – this is kind of a funny story with the whole entire Bears thing, but we have 2 other writers that write for us who are Joey and Brandon, who are both Bears fans. after they started 5-0, I wrote an article asking if the Bears were really Bears or if they were Cubs. I said that they would lose. They would lose the next 3 games, which was right. And I said that they would either miss the playoffs or make it to the wild card round and get bounced in the first round, and they would be stuck in a place where they could not get one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. And look where we're at.
And I don't know if you guys saw today, I think somebody sent it in our group chat, that good old Chicago Bears might be interested in Alex Smith.
Yeah, I think I was the one that put that in there, but I think either Mike or someone put that in there.
I mean, Alex Smith, Nick Foles, Mitchell Trubisky, I don't care. Packers 2-0.
Yeah, I like Alex Smith, obviously. I liked him when he was in Kansas City, but he's not the same player anymore thanks to the horrific injury, which sucks. But I still think either way, like the other 3 teams in our division, even with Jordan Love, you're at the spot where we can beat any of those 3 teams pretty easily, which gets into our show in 2 weeks. But are you guys kind of set with what we talked about here?
I think so.
I'm set to move on, yeah.
Okay. So our final piece for today is our potential free agent signings. I kind of want to go to MJ first because you did our off-season preview for the site. So did you want to name some free agents that you want us to potentially sign?
Yes. So the one that really stands – so, like, obviously, I think the biggest question is, like, where are we going to go in the draft? Where are we going to go in free agency? Mason was telling me when he was editing my off-season preview that one of the biggest places the Packers have been looking at in terms of prospects they're interviewing is defensive back. So my number one may not happen because of that, but a guy I really want to see is Josh Norman. For some reason, I don't think he's going to get a lot of attention. I almost never heard his name in any conversation for one of the better corners this year. He was the 17th ranked corner in the NFL. He was still very good in coverage. Obviously, he's not the dude he was when he was in Washington, when he was trash talking everybody. But he's still a very effective corner. And if that's my number 2 guy behind Jair, I am very comfortable with that. I don't think he's going to command a huge amount of money. He's 33 years old, so he's not going to get a long-term deal. It would most likely be a 1-year deal with the Packers saying, hey, Josh, we got a championship window open here. Come on, take $8 or $10 million at most. I don't even know if he would command that. Come in here, see what we could do there. So that's my number 1. Honestly, I would rather them do that than draft corners because other than Jair, we've had a very suspect history in drafting defensive backs, especially in the first round and early rounds. So I would much rather them say, okay, here's a guy we know is still extremely talented. We have a little bit of money. Let's put it there. In the draft, we can go through other positions that we've been more successful. And then the other guy, and this really depends on what the Packers do at this position, but I like James White, former running back for the New England Patriots. And the reason being, I would love a combo of A.J. Dillon and James White. So that saves us money. Bye-bye Aaron Jones. Unfortunately, bye-bye swag daddy Jamal Williams. He walks out the door. But James White had 49 receptions last year, and I want to say it was like 500, 600 receiving yards out of the backfield. And he is a very good pass-catching back. So he would come in, be that third down type back that honestly I don't think we've had in a while. I know Aaron Jones can receive, but he was not consistently getting touches out of the backfield. Receiving, they lined him up a lot more. Jamal Williams also lined up actually as a receiver. So I think that would bring an interesting dimension, especially with A.J. Dillon being the main back. So those would probably be my 2 biggest guys. And then another guy just for fun would be John Ross, basically Tyler Ervin on steroids. If they don't bring Tyler Ervin back, I think that would be a lot of fun. He's not going to get a lot of money in the open market. And boy, that dude is fast. That would be a lot of fun.
Another thing to point out with John Ross is that since he tried moving him to corner last year, so are you wanting him as a receiver or are you wanting him as a corner?
I'm wanting him as a receiver. I don't want him as a corner. Get out of here. I want that man as a receiver. I don't even want him as a receiver. I just want him running jet sweeps. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Barely even touch the ball. Give him like 16 touches, won a game.
Chris, Chris, you want to go ahead with yours and then I'll wrap up?
Yeah, just quickly, I echo everything you said about James White. I think he'd be a tremendous third down pass catching back. It's kind of a change of pace from the thumper that is A.J. Dillon.
Yeah.
One from the Rams. I know Mason's going to be a big fan of this one, but Troy Hill, a versatile corner who can play on the boundary, but spent a lot of time in the slot this year for Brandon Staley's defense, where he's around the football all the time. I think a couple interceptions this year, led the league in defensive touchdowns scored. And this is going to hurt Mason too, but Shannon Sullivan, a little bit of a regression this year, and as a slot corner, allowed some tough third down catches where I think that spot is a place where the Packers could look to improve going into next year free agency. I know Hill's projected to get a pretty substantial raise on the open market. He's 30 years old, and after the year he's had, I'd expect nothing more. And the last one for me, this is a guy who hasn't been released yet, but I think he's going to be let go by the Eagles. It's Marquise Goodwin. A deep threat that still has the speed as a perennial deep ball receiver in the NFL. I think he could be explosive for Aaron Rodgers and company. I think it's just another weapon to add in Matt LaFleur's offense. I think you could get him on the cheap. I think it'd be a tremendous fit.
When I put him in my offseason preview, and when Mason was editing the thing, he texts me and goes, Marquise Goodwin, ew. So thank you,
Great
Chris.
minds think alike, MJ.
Thank you, Chris. What do you say to that, Mason?
I mean, I'll go into the Troy Hill thing first with Chris. I was actually watching Andy Herman's podcast this morning, and that was where I got the Troy Hill potential free agent signing from. And the deal actually won't be that much. I think on his offseason prediction simulator that he did this today, he had the first year contract as around $5 million, if I'm correct, and then around 9 to 11 the next few years. So it wouldn't be horrible, but I disagree with what MJ said earlier about getting a corner in free agency compared to the draft. I mean, as a draft guy, obviously. But some of my free agents, I kind of want to start at, let's go with running back. You both named James White. I think a cheaper option than James White, who would offer a similar skill set, would be Matt Breida, who is a running back for the Dolphins. He's often injured, but, I mean, it's another body. Two other options would be Malcolm Brown because of the Rams connection. And then Corey Clement, he played here at Wisconsin during college. He had a big role when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, but has kind of been phased out thanks to Miles Sanders and Boston Scott. Another Rams player who is kind of number 2 on my big board for the free agents would be Josh Reynolds. Again, the Rams connection is there. He will probably not be re-signed because the Rams have Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and then Van Jefferson, who they selected in the second round last year in the draft. Reynolds had 52 catches for 618 yards and 2 touchdowns this last year. There's really no way that the Rams re-sign him with their current cap situation and how much depth they already have at the position.
True.
MJ, you'll know about this one because of our offseason simulation, because I was not very happy with you when you took him with the Steelers in the free agency period. But Hollywood Higgins from the Browns, that is my number 3. Honestly, I think I might put him up to number 2 because he fits our offense a little bit more than Reynolds. Higgins is a pure slot guy, 37 catches for almost 600 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. I was kind of upset when the Browns brought him back as a restricted free agent last year because I had him coming to us last year like I do this year. Another receiver would be Kendrick Bourne. He just hasn't seen the field that often. I think he has a good skill set to match us.
I like the player a lot, yeah.
Interior defensive lineman, Morgan Fox, another Rams connection there. And then, unfortunately, I have to go through 2 players at the position that shall not be named. The second one, who is not on my big board really at all, is Rayquan Mcmillan. He was a second or third round draft pick by Miami a few years ago. He got traded to the Raiders this last preseason. He actually did pretty solid there. I think we could get him on the cheap to kind of at least fill some depth there. And then my number 1 player for a free agent period is Anthony Walker, who is a Mike linebacker. For the Colts. He was their starting Mike linebacker for the last 3 or 4 years. In the last 3 years, he had over 300 tackles, 321 to be exact, and he had 3 interceptions and 11 pass deflections. Ooh. If you know me very well, you'll know that I am a big, massive fan of Chris Ballard and what the Colts have done. Anthony Walker will probably not be re-signed at all from the Colts. They kind of want to have Bobby Okereke as their Mike linebacker with Darius Leonard and any of EJ Speed, Ryan Glasgow, any of those guys as their third linebacker. So I think Anthony Walker could be our starting Mike linebacker. We could get him for cheap, and that is why I have him as my number one player for our free agency period. Do you guys have any other names you want to say in that period?
I want to throw out a wild one. Soon to be 33 years old, long time thorn in the side of the Green Bay Packers fan base, Richard Sherman. If I told you the Packers would add Sherman on a cost-efficient 2-year deal, what would you guys think?
Yes.
Yes?
100%.
I've thought about it a little bit. It's not something that I could really – it'd be kind of similar to what we did with, say, a Charles Woodson or a Julius Peppers, at least, kind of – hey, come here for a championship run and see what happens.
I think he's more Woodson, less Peppers.
Yeah.
Because again, same reasoning as Norman. Well, okay, not that. Well, yeah, no, duh. He's a defensive back, not a. Okay, thanks, Mason. But no, like he a number 2. Same reasoning as Norman. A number 2 behind Alexander, who would be a number 1 on most teams' defenses. I'll take that any day of the week if we can get him.
Yeah.
And he's shown, when he went to San Francisco, it was pretty clear he went there to win, not because of the money. And, he's one of the most intelligent players in the NFL. He negotiates his own contracts. Like, yeah, you want to bring him in? Go for it. I like it.
Any other names, you guys?
At the position that Mason loves, linebacker, in my offseason preview, I said KJ Wright. I don't know how realistic that is, but the Seahawks are struggling with money. So, when you have Bobby Wagner, I would assume that KJ Wright is not going to be at the top of their list in terms of offseason priorities. I don't know how much money he's going to command, but I can't imagine he would command much more than a Richard Sherman or a Josh Norman. That might have to be a longer-term deal, which might be more of the issue. But, if we can get him again on a 1 or 2 year deal, I think that's something we could go after too.
Another thing with the KJ Wright thing is Seattle kind of is already prepared for him to leave. They took Jordan Brooks in the first round last year, which, again, it's typical Seahawks pick. You don't really – everyone thought Jordan Brooks was a third, fourth round prospect, and they took him in the first. So, he actually didn't do that bad last year either. So,
I would be very happy with KJ Wright. Would I rather have Richard Sherman? Probably, because I tend to like our linebackers a little bit more than Mason, but that's okay. That's just me. Okay, well, yeah, they're not like elite, but, I think they give them another year. Most of them were rookies, and Christian Kirksey was a piece of crap.
You don't.
Give them a little bit of time, Mason.
I'll get more into this next week. But is that all you guys have to say about the free agents that you kind of want us to see if we can sign?
The last one I have for the position, how about a guy like Avery Williamson?
Why are you guys focusing on linebacker?
Because it's veteran presence in the middle of the defense. You could probably get him on a relatively cheap deal. He's bounced around Tennessee, New York Jets with the Steelers. Obviously, he's battled some injuries. I think he could come in and be a productive player right away. And also, he's a pretty good special teams player for the anomaly that is the Packers special teams unit over
the
past 5 and 6 years. So this is another name to think about.
My question, though, is for Avery Williamson. Like, again, I would have been fine with us trading for him, but the price that the Steelers paid for him was a 2022 5th and 7th. So if we really wanted Avery Williamson, why couldn't we give up that? Like, that's nothing.
Because the Packers don't give up draft picks. Huh?
Well, I guess. but
they really don't. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's like saying, I mean, this is kind of getting off topic, but the whole entire giving up draft picks is kind of like us using the franchise tag, which we've never used.
right.
So,
Yeah. So bye-bye, Aaron Jones.
yeah.
Hello,
So-
A.J. Dillon and James White.
So is that all you guys have for free agents then?
I think so.
That's it for me. Yeah.
Okay. So that's it for this episode. Tune into next week for Mason's first 7-round live mock draft. Hopefully there won't be too many swearing, hopefully. But that'll be the first of our free agency draft cycle before Mason really tunes into draft season, which I probably won't sleep until about mid-May. So thanks, Mike. But we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care. See you guys.
See ya.